Welcome back to the Raised Hunting Podcast. Before I introduce what's going on today, Warren is going to give me some of the people that we need to shout out to. You guys have been doing your due diligence. Spotify has been sending reviews.
Spotify is just killing it.
They're killing it.
They're on their way to 200 now.
Awesome, man. You guys are doing fantastic.
And I honestly, unfortunately, I can't remember the last time we did a podcast because we banked a couple and we've been traveling. So I'm just going to...
We weren't supposed to tell them that. We're supposed to tell them that it's live.
People know that. They've been seeing me out here vacationing.
All right.
It is live. I'm alive.
That's right.
There you
It's
go.
live
Me too,
right
exactly.
now. It's always live when we record it.
So let's give a little love to Josh Benner. He says great stuff. T-Dave 123445677, which we should see if our guest, he was just telling us about his special trick, his special party trick. Maybe when we're done with the podcast, he can do that one backwards.
So we'll see.
Hells Yeah Boy gave us 5 stars. And Cody McClintock says, love the show. He says, I use Spotify, but I put the review on here, so keep up the good work. Love the podcast. Topic I think I would be curious to talk about is, do you guys think that gutting a deer in your hunting area ruins the area? If so, how long would you give it to hunt the same area?
Gotcha.
But we have a topic, I think.
We have a topic.
Today,
I think we're good to go.
Can I answer that?
Keep giving us
You
some
can answer-
reviews.
Yeah,
but yes, go
let me
ahead.
make an introduction for you first so that we don't have just some random dude over there in the corner speaking out loud.
He's only a little bit of a rando right now.
Yeah, he's not random at all. So we're back with you guys here with the Raised Hunting Podcast, and unlike other evenings or other days when we take what you guys ask for, and those are the podcasts we do. This time we're kind of taking our liberties on our own a little bit. So, and yes, I have a special guest. I still have Warren and Easton both are still here, but tonight they're not the special guest.
What?
You're not special guests anymore. You've been backseated. We got Ike Eastman
I don't
here.
know that you want to be the special guest because it means a little different special usually on our podcast.
I'm okay with that.
No.
You fit the part pretty well.
No, I want to welcome Ike Eastman because this is a big deal. I mean, for those of you that aren't familiar with Eastman's Hunting Journal, and I want to dive into some more because Eastman's into all kinds of stuff. And so we got lots of questions for you. We'll try to get through what we can. I don't want to make this too long, so welcome, man. I sure appreciate you. Not only, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing, that we're not just here to do a podcast, but we're going to do some fishing together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is going to be fun. Thank you guys for having us on. This is, I get to come on some podcasts, but nothing, of your guys' caliber and this far. I guess the audience is unique. Your guys' audience is unique, and it's a lot more different than mine, so this will be fun. Hopefully people don't go halfway through this and go, that was boring. Click, next.
If it's anything like
Our
what we
audience
talked
is
about at
also
I was
dinner,
going to say, if it's like dinner, we're good.
if it's like dinner, we're hooked for, we'll get into the grizzly stories later, right? No, but I think we should start with like some of the beginning stuff. And there's no one out there, I don't believe, that has not heard. If you're a hunter, you've heard of Eastman's Hunting Journal.
I hope so. That was our goal.
Yeah, well,
you guys have branded that one very well.
Yeah, but let me back up, and because I'm going to talk a little bit farther, like older, because I remember when Eastman's was, and the best way that I can put it is, and these guys won't even know, Mutual of Omaha and shows like that were coming on.
Yeah.
And Eastman's Hunting Journal at the time wasn't Hunting Journal, I don't believe, was it? It was just Eastman's.
Yep, it was my Grandpa Gordon Eastman, and it was Eastman Outdoors.
There you
what
go.
It was called. Yep.
Okay, so
1957. I'll just. You want me to just jump into the elevator?
Yeah.
So 1957, my grandfather was watching a live narration of footage. I think the guy went to Alaska or Canada, and he lived in Omak, Washington at the time. And he was a jeweler. My grandfather was. He did a bunch of stuff. He was a jeweler. He went to he went to the Navy. He was a gunsmith, all kinds of stuff. But he was watching this live narration. This guy went to Alaska, and he turned to his 2 buddies and said, I can do that. And they're like, Gordon, you can't do that. He goes, no, we're going to do this. He went around town and sold wagon wheels, because at that time there was wagon wheels everywhere. It was in the 50s. There's wagon wheels everywhere, and people were putting them in gardens and at their gates and all that stuff. And so he sold enough wagon wheels to buy a camera. Went to Alaska, started guiding, and then filming wildlife as he was guiding. and bring them back to the U.S., lower 48, and he would live narrate these.
Is this like on VHS tapes?
Oh, you saw his motion there. No, it's
You remember, you ever watch like the old movies and there's 2 reels?
Yes.
And it runs it through a light?
It's like Red Dead Redemption for me when I'm playing video games. That's the photographer that comes in, and he's got one of those things, you know?
This was real.
He probably has no idea what Red Dead Redemption is.
I don't have a clue.
I don't
It's
either,
a Western video game where you ride a horse and shoot people, basically. But
What's a video game?
It's like Grand Theft Auto, but yeah, he's from Wyoming.
that's fair.
okay.
I call that Saturday night.
Well,
anyway.
And his is live. It's real.
Yeah, I don't have a video to that.
We should see what
wrong?
his ethics score is. It's probably not good.
His bounty's probably the same as mine.
So he'd live narrate these films, and people then never seen a polar bear. They never saw what a caribou looks like, or a Dall sheep, or any of that stuff, grizzly bear, none of that. And so he would live narrate these stories, and he would pack. Well, it started in little tiny rooms, and then it went to high school auditoriums, and then it went to big stadiums, and I mean hundreds and up to thousands of people would come and watch these live narrations. So that was in the 50s. And then in the 60s, he got noticed by the Canadian government. Northern Canada was untouched by white people, really. Coastal, and there was a lot of natives. Canada said, I think we should take the Northwest Territories and the Yukon and see if somebody can hunt it. See if there's a viable market to hunting. There was one outfitter that had agreed to be an outfitter if the Canadian government could prove that it's a viable business.
Right.
So they asked my grandfather, hey, you want to go up there and film, for the whole summer, 90 days, go up there and film and see what wildlife is there and the abundance of it, and bring it back, and so that we have proof that this is going to be a viable thing. So we went to the Northwest Territories, him and the 2 buddies that were sitting in the crowd with him, Danny Gibbers and Ed Parasol.
So the government didn't know that
Not really. They didn't. So they needed his experience. Like, is this a viable thing? Will people pay for this like they do in Alaska? Like, they're paying in Alaska big money at the time. It was a lot of money to go on these adventures. So these 3 yum-yums go up there in the Northwest Territories, and they spend 90 days. And they hunt they shoot whatever they want. There's no tags or anything. I think they all killed like 4 Dall sheep. They killed a grizzly bear, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Oh my gosh.
So they were allowed to shoot stuff too, not just.
Oh yeah, that's how they live for 90 days. You're not gonna pack that on your back.
Yeah, that's true.
So they film for 90 days, and they bring it back, and he builds this movie called Challenging the Northwest Territories. Remember that, because later on in the story, that's going to make better sense. So the Canadian government was like, oh, cool, we're going to start outfitting it. So they went in, they chunked the Northwest Territories up and the Yukon and northern BC into 5 hunting areas. Can you imagine that landmass into 5 areas? You would never, some of those guys never saw their whole area. Never in their entire life.
They couldn't get to it all.
No, died before they saw all their area. So they started hunting that. Well, then my grandfather caught, because of that film, which then he worked through and made it a theatrical. And Easton, theatricals are where you go into a movie theater. This building has a big screen.
Flippin' rookie. Are you kidding me?
You want to answer that?
No. Well,
Yeah, no kidding.
It's the people.
Ike wait.
It's good.
It's all right. Let me answer it.
The only reason it's ringing is because my computer, hooked up to my computer.
Okay, as you were.
I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, so theatrical. So he convinced there was distribution companies then that they would take this film and they'd put it in the movie theater, and they'd watch this Challenging Northwest Territories. And there's this epic film at the end of it. It's how it closes. These 3 guys film the end of a rainbow, and they're standing up on the Plains of Abraham, and they walk into the end of the rainbow. So it looks like they're standing at the end of the rainbow. And he has this epic line about, this is where the God's country, this is at the end of the rainbow. We have found the pot of gold. It's not a pot of gold. It's an epic place. So they put this in theatrical. That then caught the eye of Walt Disney. Walt Disney was building wildlife.
What are the chances of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
He was building wildlife films, and they had one about horses. They had one about a white buffalo. Well, he calls my grandfather up, says, hey, I need some footage of a buffalo charging. And then in post, we're going to make that buffalo white. So, okay. So you need a buffalo charging. Of course, my grandfather at the time lived in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, right next to
do
Teton.
this even back then?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, I did
So-
not think they'd be editing footage back then.
Well, so you know how they do
Careful.
it. Do you know what B-roll is? Do you know what B-roll is? B-roll is there's 2 rolls of film. There's
Yeah.
an A-roll, which is your name, and then B-roll, and they would splice the A-roll, slide in the B-roll, cut it, tape it, and that would be your B-roll. So it would be
So that's where the term
your face
B-roll comes
and then a
from.
white
You didn't
buffalo.
know where that came
didn't.
from either.
No, I'm not saying I
Freaking
did.
turns around like he's some hot dude. Freaking, oh, no, where? Yeah, whatever.
Hopefully the guys behind the camera know what the B-roll is.
Not a chance he knows what it was. Not even close.
So anyway, so my grandfather goes out to Teton National Park and gets buffalo to charge him while he's filming. You know, charge. Okay, jump, and jump behind the truck, and he would do this. And then they had this thing called Teton Marsh, and so it was a film about Teton National Park, which it wasn't. Teton National Park wasn't very old then. In the 50s, it was only like 30 years or 20 years old. So it wasn't very old. And so they did a film on Teton National Park. And my dad remembers when he was a kid, when they were filming this, they couldn't get a beaver to do what he's not an actor. So my dad spent like 3 weeks in this pond, and he would take the beaver down, and then he would let the beaver go, and the beaver come up, and he wouldn't slap his tail, so he'd have to take him back down. And he did this over and over and over, trying to get this beaver to pop up and smack his tail on the water, right? Just all for Walt Disney. So then that parlayed into my grandfather making other films, and he, my grandfather was
2 questions real quick though.
Okay.
So one, is this a live beaver?
Oh yeah, live beaver.
So how's he just keeping hold of this beaver?
Well, it's not wild. I mean, they raised him somewhere, but they
So
couldn't
it's
get him
just
to
a tame
slap.
beaver
So
that
that
just
one
allows
was a
you
pet
to.
beaver.
Yeah.
Brought him there.
Okay.
There was a guy in Idaho. My dad tells this story. It's funny. This guy in Idaho Falls, he would just have random stuff like a beaver. He had a bobcat. He had a mountain lion as pets, and just kind of raised them. And he could get them to do stuff. Apparently not slap the water, but
Yeah.
he could get them to do stuff. Anyway, so my grandfather started making other films. He was an adventurist and loved the adventure, and always liked asking a question like, okay, what's the apex predator in Canada? So grizzly or a wolf? Well, let's figure out what wolves are all about. And so he went to northern BC and captured 4 wolf pups. The first time he captured them, the first generation had their eyes open, which was a bit of a mess. 'Cause they knew better. They knew he wasn't theirs, and so he got in a couple sticky wickets. And he bring these wolves down into Wyoming and put them in a huge enclosure and studied them. And then those pups, he found some more, bring them in, and then he ended up having 3 generations. But he filmed this whole thing. It was like a documentary, and then he filmed a couple fiction films of like the wolves got out and they caused havoc, running around, Jackson Hole eating people's dogs and stuff. And anyway, and then he filmed some stuff in British Columbia where the wolves, he had these 2 really good trained wolves that he could get to do things, and it was all about wolf hunting and predator hunting and all that stuff. That was called Savage Wild, which you can actually watch that, I think, on Amazon Prime. That we don't own the rights to that. It got sold to, I think, Orion or somebody. So then the last one, which was Call of the Wild, he released the wolves back into the wild in British Columbia. He lived with them for 60 days to make sure that they could survive. And it's one of those things where they hung out for the first 30 days and wouldn't leave. And he was like, gosh, I hope they're going to leave and they can survive. Anyway, so did that. Then he's like, you know what? Huh?
Did they live?
Yeah.
Was he a hunter too?
Oh yeah. So my grandfather.
Well, I know you said it first, but I
Yeah,
didn't know
no,
if
he was a
raising
huge
wolves
hunter.
are.
So he also filmed some stuff. Some of our oldest footage we have is him and my dad rowing across the Snake River, which is in Jackson. So the Snake River goes through this huge canyon, and they would row across this thing when it was 30 below zero, and it's just the river's flowing, but it's just slush. Yeah.
Right.
And so they're in rubber boats, and they would row across the river and then hike up in the snow, and they'd shoot deer and then bring them back down and row back across the river, which doesn't sound real dangerous until you start thinking about it. It's 30 below zero. You get wet, you're dead. It's 30 below zero. The ice on the edge of the rivers is like a knife. You're in a rubber raft. You touch that wrong, you're getting in the water. Not to mention, you're in waist deep snow. hiking around shooting deer. I mean, it's just things that they were doing were crazy. So he hunted all of this time. And then he filmed a film on there was a lake in British Columbia that he built a cabin on. And him and my grandmother and my 2 uncles and my aunt lived on this lake for 2 summers, and they filmed this film. My dad was in Vietnam at that time, that's why he wasn't there. So then so he was building these theatricals, then kind of got bored of that and became a race car driver and a bunch of other stuff in the 70s. Well, in the 80s, my uncle, my dad's youngest brother, goes to my grandfather, said, we should take those theatricals and put them on VHS and sell them in video stores. So Easton, a video store.
Why do you keep talking to me about this?
Because you're the one asking questions.
Because you didn't know what a film was.
I grew up going to Blockbusters, if that counts for anything.
So before Blockbusters, every little town had a video store, and you would walk in there and you'd rent a video just like Blockbuster, and they'd have the posters up, and it was a big thing. So they decided to put these theatricals on videos and then sell them. And this is where my dad comes in. My dad went to Vietnam, and then he was an outfitter during the 70s. And then in the 80s, they came up with this cockamamie idea to sell all these VHS all over the country. So my dad's been in every small town on the East Coast and the West Coast, selling these videos, these little video stores. So he would do shows, just like, the Hunt Expo or Safari Club show now, but they were everywhere, tons of them. In fact, there's still a show in Harrisburg right now. It's the largest outdoor show, right? Well, in the 80s, my dad was sitting at this booth trying to peddle these videos, and these Pennsylvania guys kept coming up asking questions about hunting out west. How do you hunt out west? You can hunt out west? And they all thought, it's all private land. How do you do that? I don't know. The whole west, half of it's public land. It's your land. You can hunt on it. And he, out of necessity, because he got tired of answering the same question, he just built a frequent asked questions pamphlet about hunting out west, so that he could hand it, and that guy'd get out of the way and he could sell a video. It's all necessity. Well, that pamphlet turned into a newsletter, which then turned into a magazine, and which turned into our flagship magazine, Eastman's Hunting Journal.
Holy cow!
Yeah,
it starts with a pamphlet.
It started with a pamphlet.
The thing that's so cool about this is the fact that I probably met your dad because I attended Harrisburg. I grew up in Virginia.
Oh, yeah.
So I would go to Harrisburg in the 80s. The video stores that he's referring to, I was the guy buying the videos because you'd rent them for $5.
Yeah.
And then if you were really smart and you found some kid like that was Easton's age at the time that could pirate them for you, you would rent it one time, have him make you a copy.
As long as you rewound it, be kind and rewind.
Yeah, but because now was he selling any? Because those videos back then, I have some of the original ones that I had. They were $50.
Oh yeah.
And we were paying
good.
it.
They were selling.
How much was $50 worth back then?
Well, a truck was $3,000. So do the math.
Dang.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was because that was where you got the source.
Yeah.
There was no ESPN. There wasn't CMT.
Outdoor Channel,
all
Pursuit
that stuff
Channel,
didn't exist. So when you found a video, it was like, this is the coolest freaking thing ever.
Yeah. And you'd watch it until it wore out.
You would break them.
Yeah. I did that. I did that with the Primos videos. Watch them until they wore out.
Yeah.
And then you
100%
open them up and see if you could tape them together.
Yeah, see if you could fix it. Yeah.
Anyway.
It's crazy how it changes by generations, though. Because then when I was a kid, it was Outdoor Channel.
Yep.
And I hated every night but Thursday. Because Thursday was the bow hunting only nights.
Yep.
And I didn't care about anything else. I remember watching Eastman's and stuff, but you guys killed a lot of stuff with guns. So
Every other week. You didn't know this, but every other week was a gun.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I did know back then because I was like, dang it, gun. Change, so I go back from sportsman's to outdoor, hoping to try to find one that was bow hunting. Then if it was fishing, I was just grumpy that day.
You're like, Wednesday's fishing night. The week's ruined.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that was the Eastman's Hunting Journal. We call it EHJ. Then in '99, he started the Eastman's Bow Hunting Journal because there was a lot of guys just like you, Warren, that just wanted bow hunting. I just want bow hunting content. Hunting the rifle stuff's fine, but I want to figure out how to bow hunt really good. So then he started that, and then he started the Outdoor Channel on the Outdoor Channel. Here's a really funny story. He was telling this on my podcast Eastman's Hunting Journal podcast. He was telling us the other day. He said, "Yeah, I called the head of the program for the Outdoor Channel and said I'd like to put a TV show on there. How that work?" Well, and the guy's name was I'll think of it.
I can help with, but I don't know how
long. It was a
long.
long time ago. It was like 2000.
And it won't have been Jeff Wayne.
No, it was before Jeff Wayne. Yeah.
John Wayne.
Jeff's little brother. I'll think of it. Anyway, he walks into his or calls him. He sees him at SHOT Show, and then the guy goes, "I'll tell you what. When you have 13 in the can, I'll watch the preview and we'll decide." Dad goes, "I got more than 13. I have 26. You have 26 only big game Western big game TV shows?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "And I'll have probably another 13 by the end of the season." Well, let me see one. He looks and goes, "Oh my gosh, this is unbelievable production." Dad goes, "You don't know who my dad is. We've been doing this for a long time." So he puts it on the Outdoor Channel, and we were on the Thursday nights. We started on Saturday and then went to Sunday, and then those nights would move around through the time. So he started the Outdoor Channel, and then in 2008, he comes to me and says, "I'm done. I'm 60. I think he was 67 years old, something like that." And he goes, I'm done with this. I'm going to try and figure out what to do with it. I don't know what to do with it." And of course, I'm going, I quit my banking job and you're going to sell it? I'm going to be out of a job. I know how this works. And so I put together a plan to buy it from him because, there's, as you guys probably know, this is high profile, low pay job. Okay. We're not flying around in corporate jets, right? Man. So my dad's like, I need money out of this so I can retire.
Right.
And so I put together a plan and bought
Typical
it.
leaves it to the sons to have to pay their retirement.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
If I only had sons, damn it. So I bought it from him in 2008, and my wife and I are sole owners of it now, and it's been a quite a ride. In 2010, one last step. Yeah, I always hate honking my own horn. The guy standing over there would be mad if I didn't do this. 2010, I started the digital side of our world, and one of the things that we started with was YouTube. Just building content for YouTube. And now we have 6 podcasts that we do just like this. Not just like this, but 6 podcasts for all kind of red thread hunting type stuff, predators, wingmen, just big game hunting. We have 2 series on YouTube that are not on linear TV. They're just on YouTube and everything else. And so I call that the digital apartment. I started in 2010, and it's half of our revenue now. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Good for you.
Yeah, so... one last story that connects all this together. We had a sponsor at one time that they were doing these videos on YouTube, and they were just going viral, right? And they were just about interesting people and epic adventures. Came to us and said, "Listen, we saw you guys. We did this TV show called Eastman Family History, and what we did, my dad did this. He filmed, because my grandfather died in 1996, but my dad." In like 06 or 07, went back to these 2 friends of his that went to the Northwest Territories, and he sat down with them and interviewed them. Like, what was it like? Tell me stuff. And one of the guys, Danny Apples, his name is Danny Gibbers. He invented the only reason that we're able to eat an apple any day of the week, any time of the year is because of him. He invented the process to keep apples fresh, and they were called Danny Apples. So Danny Gibbers is a storytelling machine, okay? So my dad interviews him, and we put this thing together, and we took some of the old footage and used B-roll inside of his story.
Not the A?
No.
Okay.
The A was him.
Okay.
Talking heads like what we're doing.
Yeah.
So he was telling this story, and anyway, we put this on YouTube, and the sponsor of ours came to us and said, we want to film an epic adventure just like that. And go back. Can we go back to the Northwest Territories and kind of trace the footsteps? I don't know, probably, maybe. I don't know. We're at Sheep Show when this happens. I go, I'll reach out to some. There's only like 10 guys or 10 outfitters there now. I'll see. So it just happens. Canal Outfitters had changed hands, and she had a couple spots open. Glenda had a couple spots open, and so we went up there. And what we didn't know until we landed there. My brother and I go with the film crew, And they're going to make a film, and then we're going to make a film. So it's going to be, our perspective a lot about hunting, their perspective about the story.
Right.
They're not less, they aren't going to show something die, and they're not going to show the blood guts. And so we land at Canal Lake and get off the plane, and we're taking our stuff, and we walk around the camp, and the cook shack has this plaque above the door, and it says Cougar Long 1961. If you rewind to Challenging the Northwest Territories, part of that story is my grandfather's helping this guy build a cabin in the film.
And you're
That's
at the cabin.
Yeah, that is Cougar Long building the cabin 1961.
Wow.
And the story is my grandfather saw this sheep from the cabin up on this mountain, and he walks up there, walks the sheep down, and shoots him. My brother, 5 days later, not on purpose, just that's where it happened, because sheep end up in the same spot over and over again. We walk up there and shoot a sheep.
That's
On
wild.
the exact same mountain within 50, 100 yards of where my grandfather shot his.
Wow.
All
that is
happenstance.
That is
That's
freaking
freaking
cool.
crazy. How are you able to determine those within 50 to 100 yards?
So we have the footage.
Oh, okay. So you're able to look at
A
it.
peak is a peak. Doesn't change that
Yeah.
much. And then on top of that peak, because they've been hunting this thing for 50 years, they had built a rock, guys walk and stack rocks, right? When they're bored glassing for sheep, and there's a rock thing like this tall, and on the bottom of it is my grandfather shot a 257 Weatherby. That's what
No way that shell is
the
still
shell
there.
is sitting there, and it's stuck in the ground with a rock around it, and his initials are in the rock.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's so
Yeah.
That is
freaking
cool.
cool.
Yep.
I mean,
How many years later total was that?
50.
50
50
years.
how I just got to ask you. I mean, so basically you're third generation,
Third generation.
and when you piece all that together, how does that feel? I mean, I guess it's not like you guys created hunting, but you brought hunting to a lot of people, and a lot of people may not understand, especially East Coast people. Everyone thinks of Eastman's as West,
Yeah.
but you guys have been the gateway to the West.
Yeah.
And I mean,
It's so there's I
And
don't
the
take
north.
it. Yeah,
But-
I don't take it lightly. Third generation, of course, this is every generation you're like, God, I hope I don't lose this thing, and I hope I don't do something stupid. So we live by a couple things. Number one, we're very, very integrity is really, really high in our family. Business ethics, very, very high. Hunting ethics, very, very high. Nobody that works for me has a game violation. You can't do it. Sorry. This is 3 generation. I'm not willing to
can't
risk
take
that.
that chance.
I have had a guy got a game violation. I wouldn't say he was being stupid, but he obviously got a game violation. Had to let him go. Sorry, you just can't do that. Because we act that way, and because we run our world, not just my personal life, not just my business life, but and my hunting life, we run it that way. It's given us the opportunity to have 3 generations because nobody's done anything dumb.
You got to preserve it.
Yeah.
So you got to keep
Absolutely.
doing it that way.
Yep.
Let me ask you another question that is a little bit more different than that then. So I think, from the West standpoint, there's a huge stigma, and maybe it wasn't this way in the beginning of Eastman's, of not letting guys from the East know about the West, much less helping them
Right.
figure out
Yep.
better spots to go and hunt. At what point was it that you guys went and did that? Did you get a lot of flack from guys
Oh, yeah.
out west
Oh,
for
yeah.
doing that, and do you continue to see that?
Yeah, so when it first started, it was really bad. You guys are like, you're telling all of our hunting stories, or hunting areas, because in the back of our magazines, we have what's called the MRS, and it's not for the ladies. It's not the Mrs. section. It's the members research section. And what that is it's helping guys walk through, because our draws and our tags out west are very complicated, very, very complicated to figure out where I'm going to put in, how am I going to draw, what's the point system, and every state's different. So it's not like you learn one, you learn them all. Every state's different. So we got a lot of flack for a long time about you're telling everybody where to come out here and go hunting, and I come to the trailhead and all there is XYZ state license plates. And then you explain it. No, those non-resident tags are different than your pool, so you're not competing for tags. And they've given those tags away forever. I'm not doing anything different than what was happening before. All I'm doing is allowing them to have a better experience, better educated, and they're keeping them from doing something dumb.
Absolutely.
And we're teaching them how to be better hunters, so when you're up there hunting with them, they're not, driving a basin of deer out or overcalling elk and learning, educating these bulls.
Well, you've heard me say that. I mean, and you bring up I was working for Primos.
Yeah.
And I'm going and I'm doing seminars, and people were same thing. I'm starting to catch flack. You're telling all your secrets, and now these people are going to be copying what you do. Absolutely. And guess what? Because one thing that they're going to learn is maybe let's not go out and just do whatever and run everything out of here. So maybe you can come along after them and still call a bull in.
Right.
Because they didn't blow it as much, or they.
Right.
So a hunter, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Yeah. And honestly, like the tag allocations, the percentages haven't changed up until recently, where Wyoming residents got more, but the allocations have been the same, and they're filling those tags. It's not like they don't have people buying tags. So we're just educating. We always, our mindset, our mission statement is to help hunters become better hunters through not only our experience, but other people's experience, so that they can take that trophy of a lifetime. That's all it is.
Yep.
My hat's off, man. I mean, I knew that having you on today was going to be interesting. I was really, I mean, we haven't spent a lot. We've seen each other at trade shows and stuff like that. But I guess these guys know how ours is family. Our race hunting is all about family. And so it means so much to me, the history, the richness. I love the stuff that comes from way back. And to hear you talking about how hunting has changed and what you've seen and what you guys have actually guided, what your grandfather started and your dad continued and now you are. Man, if there's people out there that have not reached out to Eastman's Hunting Journal or looked at the MRS, you need to be doing so, especially if you.
Well, I think we should so one of the people on the reviews asked a question that was basically what would be some of the very first advice that you give somebody to go out of state hunting, and I said let's hold that because I bet Ike can answer that.
Yep.
I mean, we could answer it too, but you could definitely do a better job than we could. So if you just give somebody 2 or 3 tips for the very first things that they're going to go on an out of state hunt, what would you tell them?
Knowledge is power, and knowledge. Never in history has knowledge been easier to access.
That's true.
There's YouTube. There's books. There's online courses.
There's Oogle for these guys. We give them a little shit.
Yeah. So there's
Dad.
We do
YouTube hunt.
I have to live
You've
with
never
this.
heard home bro.
Home bro? Is that a beer?
Exactly. Yeah, it's right there on your screen.
So yeah, knowledge is power. We're just one source. There's tons of sources, but number one, because there's so much out there, be careful where you're getting it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not great, but knowledge is power. Number one. Number two, do a ton of research online. Like get on OnX and go look at some areas and actually turn that 3D, turn on that exaggerated 3D so you actually see it, because I can't be alone in showing up at a trailhead after doing a ton of digital research on OnX, look up on the mountain and go, it didn't look that big.
Yeah, it didn't look this steep.
I'm afraid that Nick and I are about to counter that. I looked at the topo again and I was like, shit, those lines are steep.
I wasn't going to tell you when we were talking about 49 earlier, but that's going to be a chore. That's going to be fun.
I told you better be ready to hoof it.
Yeah, it'll be fun. So those two things.
The great thing about me is I'm stupid enough to do anything. So, I mean,
you can admit it.
Stupid enough to feel pain.
Yep, exactly.
And come back again the next day.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
right. So those two things, do a lot of digital research, do a lot of research on whatever species you're going to find, do a ton of stuff on gear. I'm telling you, the difference between a successful hunt and a non-successful hunt, I can almost 90% of the time roll it to gear, because the more comfortable you are out there, the longer you're going to stay out there, which increases your chances of being successful.
Yeah.
Those three things. The last one is take an emergency device. If you're out of cell service, take a Zoleo or a InReach device so that you can contact home, which then gives you the opportunity to stay longer because you're okay with that, and they're okay that you're not dead.
Right.
It's a level of comfort. The other thing is take the time. Understand that if you're elk hunting, there is zero reason to come scouting elk. The only reason I would come scouting elk is if I didn't know the area. I just wanted to learn the area. Because elk change and they move. They can move 5 miles in a day and not be there or be there, and you don't know. Deer do scouting because they don't move much unless there's a change. Like when they lose their velvet, they change. Our high country mule deer, when they lose their velvet, they go nocturnal and you never see them again. It's really hard.
Our Iowa whitetails, I mean, it's hilarious to watch. Like this week will be a change.
Yeah.
Because
I
there's
already had it
Yep.
before. Like I have not had a buck all summer hardly, and I had 6 or 7 in the one picture I showed you,
Yep.
just in a week of them getting close to moving back to where they are
Where they're
gonna
used
be.
to.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's,
And-
I mean, there are some things that people can apply that they may have learned on the East Coast or Midwest or whatever, and apply it to the West. I think it's awesome that you bring up the elk specifically and how far they'll go, because we've seen that. Not only seen them move completely, but I've seen them go to food 5 miles away and come back.
And they water every day.
Absolutely.
And they'll go 3 to 5 miles for water.
Yep.
But they have to water. That's the
Right.
beauty of an elk's like a horse. They can't not water a day. A deer can go 2 or 3 days. But yeah.
That's
Hopefully
good
that answered the
information right
question.
there.
It is.
They
That's
drink
huge.
a lot at night.
No, usually they'll drink in the evening
Yeah.
because it's hot all day and they're laying underneath the shade, and so if you think about their digestive, they eat in the morning and then they lay down and they chew their cud. When they chew their cud, it takes a lot of moisture, and so when they stand up in that evening time, they're thirsty. They got to fill that belly back up with water so that at night, as they're feeding at night, they're digesting.
Interesting.
And they'll drink
That's
a lot
all
of
about
water.
knowing the animal you're hunting.
Yep.
Yeah.
Being an
Understanding
outdoorsman.
what it is, yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. But I think the other part that you mentioned, though, is like it's right at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, back when we were growing up, and I don't know how old you are. I'm 55.
I'm 46.
Okay, so 10 years apart. But my point is that the VHS tapes were how you learn stuff. Everything
Outdoor
else,
life and Field and Stream, and you just hoped it was good.
yeah, or a gazetteer.
Yeah.
You buy a gazetteer for the state, and then you'd go, and then you guys probably don't even know what I'm talking about. That was the list of maps. So basically, it was on X in paper.
Yeah.
And
Like a plat map. But
No,
it was in a book, and you had
in
to
a-
figure out, is that a crick?
right.
It looks like a draw to me, but I think I'm sitting on that crick. It was
Well,
Onyx changed, in my opinion, they changed hunting.
immensely. But no,
Completely,
because
sure.
what you're thinking of, Easton, was then I would take the
Yeah, we see the
gazetteer
same.
They definitely did, because I remember
and
as
go get
kids,
topo maps.
Yeah, you would buy that topo
Yeah.
map, and so
Yeah,
you
I had the
so it was
box of
bigger.
maps.
that's
Well, I
why we
remember as
always go to
kids-
the game fish.
Yeah, that's what I was
just
going to say. So that's why I think Onyx made such huge changes. Every year we would go to the Fish and Game Parks Rec, whatever, in Great Falls, and Dad would get all the new maps, and then he'd be sitting looking at all those maps.
that was actually a lot of fun. We got to play on those dial things.
Yeah, I remember
That was freaking-
rolling the big map.
Rolling
Yeah,
the big map.
yeah.
It'd be a huge map. We could see everything.
You're like, look, there's a 3D mountain range. That's cool.
Yeah. Looking back now,
Tomorrow we're
definitely
gonna
weren't supposed to be spinning those that fast.
No,
We weren't paying attention to the map, just how fast the thing spun.
No, we'd look at it once through, and then after that, how fast can we get through the whole state?
Yeah.
Jeez.
well,
Every day, huh? I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, it is. It never changes either. It's the same.
Oh, he's
I-
lucky to have us around.
Yeah.
But
It'd be so. This podcast would be so boring if it was just Dad.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would agree.
You'd probably have a 4.4 stars.
All right.
Or people you'd be nice and they give you 5, but you only have like 15 of them.
Well, I have some.
Because you don't even know how to tell them to do the review part.
I have some hunting questions we
Calls
wanted
it
to get to,
Shopify.
but I don't want to run us into the ground. I mean,
Go listen to
I'll-
Shopify.
Here's the one thing that I'm going to ask right now before we go any farther, and that is that at some point we do this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I'm thinking of 10 different ways we could go with this podcast in order to be able to get it all in.
I want to know how long it took for this being a generational thing. How long it took for your dad, your grandpa, to be able to say, "Hey, go ahead." What? What are you laughing at?
That's a funny question.
So no, that's a great question, honestly.
It is a good question.
because I've been there. I get it. I know where you come from. So here's what happened. My dad never started this thinking he was going to be wealthy. If he was sitting here, which he would never do that because this is not his. He'd be fishing. But if he was sitting here, he'd say, "I never started this thinking that I wanted to be famous or that I wanted to continue on a generational thing." He goes, "The only reason I did it is because I had no other way to make a living." He goes, "That's it." So he always thought, okay, when I was in high school, I remember him and my mom talking at dinner, and he would look at her and go, "Am I going to be 80 doing this? I don't want to be doing this. I don't want to be tradesman around the hills with a backpack on at 80. I have no interest in that." And so what for me, it was easy. It was more about trying to keep him somewhat involved in it, because he was just an unbelievable amount of knowledge, not just hunting, but the history of the business, the history of the industry, who is who. It always astonishes me when I walk around, Dallas Safari Club or Safari Club, which is or the Sheep Show, the three that he does with us now, who he knows. I mean, to be able to sit down with Fred Bear and just sit down and have a conversation over a Coke. I mean, that's who my dad was, because my grandfather, right? And it still happens today. We'll be walking around and somebody will walk up, "Hey, Mike, blah, blah, blah." And I'll go, "Who is that?" He goes, "Oh, he used to be the CEO of Swarovski when they first came to the U.S. Oh, my gosh. Well, that was a game changer for the world. So my problem was keeping him involved, because he always wanted to move to, like he did in 2008. He moved to the mountains. He moved within a stone's throw of the wilderness, the one of the largest wilderness in the lower 48, and disappeared. For 16 years, my mom and him lived up there, 200 inches of snow, 20 miles from a little town called Cook City, Montana. They lived in Wyoming, but they disappeared. And he's got millions of photos of bears, and right now he's into red-lipped sapsuckers, which is a bird.
That's a thing?
It's a thing, and they're really unique.
Not
That
what I was
like
thinking. I think I was going more along the lines of lot lizard.
So I struggled keeping him involved, but he always liked to be, hear about the industry, but he never really wanted to be involved in it after he sold it to me. But here's what I would say: don't jump the gun, because there is a pile of knowledge that sits in that head that you can't ever replicate, because times have changed. And he has done things and in the business and had things happen to him. He goes, "Whoa, I got red flags about this. Let's sit back and discuss it." Because you've ever heard the old bull and the young bull story? Do you know what that is?
From Step Brothers, I have.
I don't know. Is that a movie?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know what
with
that
Will
is.
Ferrell and
I don't know. Maybe it's the same story. It
I
might
don't know
be.
if it is or not. I
It's
know
a
which one you're
reference
talking
to
about.
it, but-
About going down the hill.
So, yeah, exactly. You're not going to run down there. Let's walk down there and do
exactly.
the same thing. Maybe more of it. So just remember, there's a ton of knowledge. Now, my advice to him is times change, and it happens fast, as you've seen.
Unbelievably.
And there's 3 things in this podcast I picked up, and I'm like, Reekers, go make a note of that. What is that all about? Because I don't know what Step Brothers is. No, I'm just kidding. But he just looked at me like I had 4 heads.
I was just like, that's the one that was the most important. Will Ferrell. This dude is from Wyoming. He's still on the VHS.
Like, well, there's my train. I got to go.
Yeah, he's got to go Bandito that one.
Put your mask on.
All right, but before we do get done,
Times do
I don't
change
think he was
quick.
done.
were you done or no?
Yeah, I'm done. Unless you have follow-up
It is an
questions.
interesting time though right now, because it's still kind of a blend.
It is.
You know.
It is. It is. You have the old and the new, and they're conversing quickly. And remember, even though things change, the train keeps going down the tracks.
That is a great reference at the moment.
But I think there'll always be relevance for the older information at the same time. Like I think something that I think everything's more accessible now, like you said. But so everybody can go start a YouTube channel.
Yep.
However, there's not many people that have near the knowledge, the relevance, or the trust that say Eastman's is built.
Yeah.
even ourselves.
Yep.
A lot of our audience knows that we will present you with our opinions. We're not gonna, and all of our opinions have come from experience, but we're not just gonna go tell you to do something just to try it. Where a lot of people, there's no way to really even be able to ever authenticate that and know, has this dude ever even killed an elk?
Right.
And he's telling me how to go and kill elk.
Yep.
Has he ever killed an elk on public? Does he know how to go on out? Is this guy that's telling me how to make all this money to go on these outfitted hunts, has he ever made a freaking dollar? You know, it's a lot harder. As much as there is way more information, it's also a lot more difficult to filter through it now.
That's right.
I think one of the things that comes to mind when you're saying that is that I guess when I think of me teaching someone or trying to help someone, it always comes back to telling them more about a mistake I made.
Yeah.
Not about the successes.
Yeah.
You know,
You don't learn from success. You learn from failure.
I hunted public land and I did it this way, and man, I just kept screwing up. Then all of a sudden I realized this, but you know what? I still did it the other way again.
Yeah.
You know, and then people, I think they appreciate it. I know I do. I know when someone will be vulnerable enough to tell me I made a mistake, because that's the bad thing about TV. Not necessarily is it bad, but you try to explain to someone, we're on TV for 22 minutes out of a 30-minute episode.
And there's about 17 hours worth of footage.
Yeah, and it didn't all happen in 22 minutes, and it looks like it did, and it looks like every time you go out, you're successful, and we try to explain that to people. But I want to ask, there's got to be one, and there's probably 100, and this is going to make you have to think. But if there's one hunting story, something that stands out, that whether it's years ago, whether it's now, I just think that our listeners would love to hear.
Does it have to be my hunting story?
No.
Take it. Let's see. One hunting story that stands out. I have a bunch of really long hunting stories. So one thing that I got from my grandfather is I'm kind of an adventurist. The actual killing of the animal that's the culmination of it. That's the reason we're there, or that's the end of why we were there. But I'm really there from point A to that. I love that part of the adventure. The adventure to me is all about it.
Right.
That's why I like doing what we're doing now. We came down here to have an adventure. We don't know if the fishing is going to be good tomorrow. So all of my most memorable hunts are adventures. I would say that my brother shooting that sheep on that mountain is in the top 5 for sure.
It's got to
be. We had hunted for 4 days before that and walked our little butts off up, 3,000 foot verticals, side hilling. It was the camera guys that we took were, of course, I warned that sponsor. I said, this is pretty extreme. You can't send us with, Joe Bob. It's got to be people that are used to backpacking. And this guy's like, oh no, I've done, I've filmed 2 documentaries on Everest and a documentary here and there. I was like, all right. And halfway through the second day, he throws his backpack on the ground. And he goes, this is bullshit. He goes, when I go backpacking, I'm on a trail. It's relatively flat side to side. What are we doing? Of course, we've been side hilling around this mountain to the top for 2 days. Right. It's side hilling. If you've never done it, it's hard. It is hard on your leg or your ankles. It's hard on your knees. It's hard. It's just hard because nothing's level, nothing's flat. And he was over it. And then he almost quit on us the day that we shot the sheep because we were traversing up through this rock slide. He was last trying to film us go through this cut, and I hit a rock and it created a rock slide, and he had to bail off, jump 3 feet behind this cliff, and the rocks all went down below him. And yeah, he threw a fit over that too. He's a tough guy. That's just not his. He was like, this is.
He was
stupid.
Out of his element.
Yeah, this is stupid. Why would you ever do this? Well, because the end result was unbelievable. So that's in my top 5. Mongolia. I went to Mongolia and shot an ibex. That was unbelievable. The adventure. We spent 3 days in Beijing, China, touring. Tiananmen Square and Mao's tomb and the castle or all the stuff. We went to the Great Wall of China and stuff. Right. I don't know if we'll ever be able to do that again. I mean, it's unbelievable. That was an unbelievable adventure. But honestly, and you'll get this, my top hunt, and I know before this happened, I look at guys and go, yeah, you had to say that. My top hunt was taking my 12-year-old daughter this year, first hunt, and we did a deer hunt, and it was supposed to be this easy frickin', bunted over the wall hunt. We have a lease that we use for waterfowl, and we were just going to shoot one of these dumb bucks that were in the cornfield. It was going to be easy. We spent 9 days. 9 days trying to find. We spent 6 of those days trying to find a buck. And then we spent 3 more days because the buck season closed and it was just does. 3 more days trying to find a doe. During bucks, we found does. During the doe season, we found bucks. I was like, oh my gosh, it's like the game management does this on purpose. She spent, it was 9 below zero, and every morning before basketball practice, we would sit under the tree, and it was 9 below zero, sit there for an hour and a half, and every evening, if she didn't have, she had morning practice, in the evenings, we'd sit, and it was just, she's so tough. And just to watch my legacy, not, I have a family legacy, but that's my legacy, is my daughter learning how to hunt. And she shot her doe, she missed her twice, and then got mad, and it was all over. When she got angry, that doe had no chance. And shot the doe and gutted it, and we processed it in the whole 9 yards. And it's gone now. This was almost 12 months ago, and just the whole process, and watch that. That's your legacy, and that's what you get to pass on to the next generation, and they get to pass on to their generation, and you've actually done something that is down the road going to pay dividends.
Oh, my God.
That is awesome.
That is so cool.
Hopefully that wasn't too corny, but I honestly thought, before that, I thought, guys always say that, and I'm not sure I agree.
I'm impressed that she stuck with it that long.
And you know what? There was multiple times I said, all right, Charlie.
Especially at 12.
Yeah, 12,
Yeah.
You're probably get cold pretty easy. She's going to basketball practice in the morning, then school, then probably a game in the evenings, and then still fitting it in. Oh.
Yep. And there was times I was like, Charlie, it's 9 below zero. I don't think we're going to go. She goes, Dad, if I'm going to kill something, we got to put the time into it. I'm like, I should have never told you that. Because I don't want to sit out there.
That's awesome. But, man, and again, these guys, and I'm not picking on you. I'm just saying you won't know until you have your own. And it is
different.
You can't explain it. You can hunt with your wife. Mm-hmm. You can hunt with friends. You can hunt with a brother. Yep. You can hunt with another family member. But when it's your kid.
Yeah, 100%.
There's just something different.
It is. I am convinced we are put on this planet to have children, because without it, you're a selfish, overbearing, egotistical maniac.
Amen, brother.
With it, they are.
For now.
Yeah, until they have their own.
Until they have their own.
When you're a dad, you're just delusional.
Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know how, I was hoping this would go well.
I thought the only way they bonded was freaking dad jokes.
Oh, I got a couple.
Yeah, I got a bunch too.
Start. We'll cut the cameras for that.
Well, I just wanted to I want to thank you.
What's your best one?
Oh,
I got
my
here.
gosh.
My best dad joke?
Yes.
Warren can top it with 3 words in one of his jokes.
No. What?
Goldfish.
We just told me.
That's not the answer.
Let him. He's trying to tell his joke.
He's thinking.
He's
man.
processing.
No, I'm trying
just
to tell
like a
which
Windows
one.
browser.
So can I tell a series?
Sure.
Okay. So you know what you call a cow elk with 3 legs?
Eileen.
lean beef or lean meat.
Okay. Lean meat.
They are all the same. They
freaking are.
It's close.
Eileen.
Okay.
Hold on.
So one leg?
One leg?
Yeah.
Irene.
Steak.
That's a good one. I like that.
There's my series.
2? It was 2 of them?
Yeah.
That's not a series. That's like a 2. That's a duo. Yeah. What?
Ike was a perfect series in my opinion. So just saying. No, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you guys for listening in today. I really want to thank Ike. It's been more fun than I thought it could be. And
but you thought Ike was going to be boring?
No, not at all. I expected it to be good.
My reputation precedes me.
But I want it on air that we're going to do this again.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
You already said it on air. You already committed.
Well, good deal.
Dad's
You
like,
guys,
he's not boring. We can do another one with him.
but tomorrow, I just want to beat the crap out of these guys catching fish.
That'll be easy.
You don't even know how to cast a fly rod.
And that's what I want to go out there as the guy that knows
my
nothing.
shoulder.
And it's the other shoulder, so I won't use that as an excuse.
Yeah, it'll be
You've had
easy
both.
because you have old man style, and you have old man grace.
You mean that's a
Fly
lack
fishing-
of style?
Fly fishing is all about presentation.
There you go.
Yep, grace.
I think I've
He
got
does
that.
not.
They're
have
gonna
that.
just flog the water. The water is gonna be beat to death tomorrow.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. We sure appreciate you. This is the Raised Hunting Podcast. Checking out, unless the only thing, and I don't even believe that I'm getting ready to say this.
Oh yeah, come on,
You-
I
Warren.
haven't looked at anything yet.
No.
Warren does a wacky fact. That's how we kind of.
People
wacky fact.
request it.
You can't
Oh, they
research it
requested.
now. You're gonna have to give him 2 for the next.
All right.
All right. So we're
Although
going to.
people do message in now and have said that Warren has forgot it on a couple. FYI. Which I think is stupid as crap, but whatever.
All right. Well, we promise 2 wacky facts from Warren on the next podcast. So, all right, guys, we sure appreciate you, and we are out. Raised Hunting is out of here. Thank you, guys. Ike.
Yeah, appreciate
Thank you,
it,
buddy.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank
it,
you
man.
guys very much.
I'll shake your hand too, I guess.
I was gonna do it after, but